The reason that I'm putting this video together is because a very, very good friend of mine told me that I should start making videos talking about the same issues that I faced early on and things that I wish that I knew when I was first starting off. And more specifically, I want to focus on advertising and the main issues that I focused when I first started advertising, which I'm honestly very passionate about because these are real game changers that you need to understand about the truth of advertising and how you can actually make it work for your business. Okay, and so today I wanted to talk about just that. I wanted to break down what I think two of the biggest reasons why your ads are not being successful, and give you some solutions to them as well. And this is not going to be the gimmicky stuff. I'm not going to give you special tricks or changes you can make in the settings that are going to make your ads magically do much, much better. Because let me tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you that doesn't really exist when we're talking about advertising. There's some settings that can make your ads better, but realistically, you need to understand the fundamentals of how your target audience sees and receives your ads. Okay. And so I've actually boiled it down to two main problems that I see most business owners face when they first start advertising. And so the first one being your market. And so I am not talking about, and I'm not referring to your industry specifically. Like, take it from me, we have worked in just about any industry on an agency level. We've run ads in most industries you can think of. That's not what I'm talking about, but rather your ability to adjust your market. And I know it sounds like a very broad sort of subject, so I've actually thought of an example for you. Okay. And this is something that I did really early on. And I'm hoping that you haven't or you aren't making the same sort of mistake. Okay. And so let's just say this is you right here. Okay. When you first want to start advertising for your business, one of the first things, or the very first thing that you probably do, is you go and look at your competition. Okay. And so maybe you're opening up your Facebook ads library, or maybe you're just scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, just trying to find your competitors and how they're advertising, right? And so you're looking at the sort of videos, images, and copy that they're using for their advertising, okay? Which is a very normal thing to do. However, what you might be doing at this stage, and I know that I've done this very early on, is actually go ahead and say, well, if it's working for them, then why don't I go ahead and just pretty much copy everything one-to-one, okay? And so that means is that maybe you see a video of your competitor saying something very specific or talking about a very specific topic, and you pretty much make the same video with the same cuts and the same angle, same colors. It might be the images, right? You see that your competitors are running very specific images, and you're looking at them, you're like, well, they must be working really, really well. And so you try to recreate the images, maybe with slightly different colors or slightly different branding that is more, it's closer to your brand. Or even the copy. You see the description, the way that it's written out, and you just copy, paste, make a few adjustments because your program might be slightly different, change your company name in there, and launch them. Okay, that is a huge mistake. That right there is a massive mistake. And if you have done this in the past, you'll probably notice that more likely than not, it has not actually worked for you. Okay, and so what's the problem here, and how does that relate back to your market or being able to address your market? Well, let me explain it very simply. And so these ads, right, the ads you're seeing from your competitors and your competition, they might be working for them, but that might be because of a lot of different variables that you're not able to see in that moment. And so maybe your competitor already has built up a brand and people already recognize him or them or the company. So it's a lot easier for them to then drive leads through very specific imagery. Or maybe the imagery, the videos, the copy really closely ties back into their brand and what they're about, as well as their landing pages might be different. Their settings might be different. So people that are seeing this ad might be retargeted from a video that they've seen or a submission that they've made in the past. And so maybe because of the whole process that they've gone through, your competitor now is performing really, really well with that very specific creative video, image, or copy. And so there's a lot of variables that whenever you're looking at your competition, you can't see. And those very small variables and those small 1%ers might actually be the reason why their ads are working compared to when you copy them, they don't work. And that's just one of the things. The second thing, and this is a bit of a phenomenon in the marketing space, more so in the advertising space, is that you might have heard of stories like this before, but sometimes you take one ad and it can be a video and the two videos are exactly the same. However, in one video, the background is red, and the second one, the background is blue. For some reason, at times, the one with the red ends up performing way better than the one with the blue. And I know you're going to have marketers that are going to try and tell you that there's a psychological reason as to why this happens and why they perform so much better, although it's a very, very small change. But in reality, it is very much a phenomenon, and it's not something that we can really understand as marketers. Sometimes it just happens. Okay. And so I'm giving you this example and I'm telling you this scenario to help you understand that, like, very, very, very small changes in the creatives. Maybe it's the face of the person that's talking. Maybe it's their voice. Maybe it's the shirt that they're wearing that day or what's in the background in that moment. Those very, very, very small changes can actually have a massive impact on the advertising performance. And so you don't know what your competitor has done. Your competitor might have actually run 5 different variations of the exact same video, and the one that they're using right now actually works so much better because of an unexplainable reason, which makes it very, very hard to replicate. Like, even if you try to replicate exactly what that person is saying at the exact right tone, at the exact right time, it's never going to be exactly the same. There's always going to be some other variables that you simply can't control. And maybe that's the reason why your ad doesn't perform as well. And once again, this is not something that even us as marketers can really wrap our heads around. Like, why does the color blue perform better than the color red, or the color red perform better than the color blue at different stages, in different scenarios? We don't really know that. And it can have anything to do from the way that the viewer perceives it, yes, or maybe it just hits the algorithm differently and the algorithm likes it and decides to push it out for cheaper and more often to more people. We don't really know. And so for you to be trying to copy these very specific ads and hoping to get the same sort of result, it's impossible. And on top of that, the additional reason would be that if you're seeing that ad, or you've gone out of your way to actually research that ad and it is actually performing well, then more likely than not, your target audience has already seen it, and you don't want to look like a copycat, right? You don't want to look like the dollar store version of what your competition is and what they're doing. And so even just on that branding aspect, it doesn't look right. Either way, I've rambled too long about this very specific point, but how does it tie back into your market? Well, whenever you're doing this, whenever you're going out there copying your competition or trying to mold your brand or somehow change your brand to be similar to what your competitors are doing, and not really listening to your market, these are the sort of results that you get. And so if this is your market right here, right, and we know that we need to cater to this market, whenever you're going out of your way to copy your competition, you are completely skipping this step and you're going directly to your competition. And instead of looking at what does your market need in that moment, what do they need to hear, what do they need to see, how can I speak to them and actually bring value to them, you're focusing on your competition and what they're doing and then trying your best to replicate it. And that is the complete wrong way to go about it. And I'm willing to guarantee you that if you actually spend that time focusing and researching your market instead of your competition and then catering to them, you are going to get better results every single time. Every single time. Because now you actually understand what your target audience needs. And if you release 5 different ads and one ends up performing better than the other, at least you know why it has performed better to some degree. You know that maybe the videos perform better than the images, or the images perform better than the videos. And even if you do happen to get lucky in a crazy phenomenon scenario like I explained to you earlier, then at least you understand the process that you took to actually make it, and it's now yours. You're not copying somebody else, and your viewers can see that. It's an original piece of content. It's an original ad. And so what I'm really trying to say, and I say this with a lot of passion, because once again, I made the same mistake when I first started learning about advertising, and I started doing advertising internally for companies or even for myself. It's like we're so focused on what the competition is doing that we completely neglect what the market needs in that moment, because we just want results and we try to cut corners. In reality, when it comes to providing value and targeting your audience, you can't really cut corners. And if you can, it's going to come to bite you in the ass later down the track. It's just as simple as that. That's exactly how it works. And so once again, just to wrap up this one point, spend time researching your market. If your ads are not working, more times than not, you have not done a good enough job to address your market or to understand what they need, and then being able to transfer that information onto a piece of content. Your videos and your images or even your copy doesn't need to be made at super high quality all of the time. It can even be lower quality, but as long as you are actually speaking to your target audience, then you're going to have some sort of impact, and it's going to actually drive them to take action and to want to find out more about what you do. So once again, do your competitor research. That's fine. You want to, find some inspiration. That's okay. But first, focus on your market. And I don't care if you've been in the industry for 10 years and you're only now starting to advertise, right? Still do your market research. Understand who they are, what they do on a daily basis, what sort of lingo do they use, what are their problems on a day-to-day, what are their desires, where do they want to be, and then cater your messaging around that. Okay? And that's just number one. Now, as number two, and the second reason why I think you might be struggling is actually it's got to do with your post-click experience. Meaning, what happens after somebody clicks on your ad? Which, for some of you, this might seem a little bit counterintuitive, because I'm talking about advertising, and then all of a sudden I'm bringing up what happens after somebody clicks on the ad. It's like, what? Which I can understand that, but what we need to understand is that Meta has probably, if not the most powerful algorithm in the world, where all data is always transferred back into Facebook or into Meta, and they then use that data for advertisers. And so if whatever experience that the user has after they've clicked on the ad, Meta knows about it, and it will use that information and will use that data, to target better, to advertise better, and to take some sort of action. Okay, and so once again, I'll give you two sort of scenarios here so you can better understand this concept, right? So scenario number one, okay? Let's just say that you're running an ad directly over to an instant form, okay? If you don't know what an instant form is, essentially it's that form that lives directly on Facebook. It's like a Facebook form. And so when you click on it, it just has like a few questions, like your contact information pretty much, and it automatically fills it in there, and you can just click submit. That's what an instant form is, okay? And so instead of having to have like a website or a landing page to collect that information, it's just a form that lives on Facebook. And so let's just say, like I said, you have an ad running directly to an instant form to collect information, and then you have a user that goes on your ad, likes your ad, clicks on it, finds out more information, hops over to your instant form, and then for whatever reason they decide not to make an inquiry and they hop back off. Okay, let's just say that's scenario number one. What's happened here is that essentially Facebook hasn't really been able to capture a whole lot of data, a whole lot of information. It just knows that somebody clicked on the ad, went on, didn't make an inquiry, hopped back off. And so Facebook can assume this is not the sort of lead that we're looking for, or the sort of prospect that we're looking for in that moment. Okay. Scenario number two, you have an ad that drives your traffic, meaning every single time somebody clicks on that ad, it drives them over to a landing page. And that landing page has, let's just say, a strong offer, right? At the top, it has a VSL, it has info, FAQs, testimonials, right? All that jazz, all the stuff that you should have on a landing page. And so let's just say that somebody comes over to your ad, clicks on the ad, goes over to the landing page. They, read your offer, they watch the VSL, they read all the information, go through some FAQs, maybe even just read through some of the testimonials. And then for whatever reason, they also hop off the ad and decide, well, it's actually not the time for me right now to make an inquiry, which is fine. Okay. The difference between these two scenarios is that in scenario number one, Facebook doesn't actually have a whole lot of information as to what has happened after somebody's clicked on the ad. It just knows that somebody hopped on, saw one page with X information, and then hopped back off. And so Facebook almost has no real data that it can use, apart from the fact that this person did make an inquiry. Whereas if you have a landing page and you have a real experience that happens after somebody clicks on the ad with a lot of information, Facebook actually can recognize how much time the person has spent on the page. What have they looked at? Have they watched it? Or was this just somebody that just clicked on and clicked off right away? Which is a big difference, right? And so because this is all additional data that we can take and we can feed back onto Facebook, and that's done through the Pixel or the Conversion API, things that you need to set up whenever you start advertising, which if you haven't heard of, they sound scary, but they're really, really not. It's just tracking on your landing page so you can communicate back to Facebook. Facebook or Meta can take all this information and make a decision based on how somebody has interacted with your landing page. And so this means that for the one person that has actually come through, gone through all of the information, but then hopped off, Facebook will actually be able to recognize that this might actually be a pretty qualified prospect because they have gone through all of this information. And so they are more likely than not going to be retargeted again to actually see your ads, because Facebook believes that there is a chance for them to actually make an inquiry and come through. Whereas with an instant form, not really. There's not a whole lot of information that people can go through, and there's not a whole lot of data to collect. On top of that, let's just say in a scenario where both of these prospects actually go through, or both of these leads go through and decide to make an inquiry. In the first scenario here, let's just say somebody comes through and makes an inquiry. A lot of the times what happens with instant forms, because they are so easy to fill in and actually submit, there's a lot of unqualified people that just come through and make a submission right away. They might see your image for 2 seconds, get a certain idea of what it is, and just boom, make a submission. Just like that, super fast, no problem. You even have people, and if you haven't experienced this before, then it might sound silly, but you have a lot of people as well actually coming through with an inquiry that they don't even realize that they made an inquiry. Their finger just slipped. Right? And so with the instant form, you can get a lot more leads for much, much cheaper, but they're not qualified. You're going to get a lot that are not qualified. And so once again, in this scenario, because you are getting so many inquiries that are going to be not qualified and unqualified and not actually good for your business, not only is that wasting your time on the back end, but Facebook will also struggle to recognize the good ones from the bad ones. When there is a submission that is being made, the only thing that Facebook really sees, unless you set up some more advanced tracking, which is difficult to do, the only thing that Facebook really sees is, oh, this person made an inquiry, which means that this kind of person is the sort of person that we need to be going after if we want to get more inquiries for the business. And that person that just made an inquiry could be somebody that accidentally, their finger slipped and they made a submission, which happens. It happens very, very often. In scenario number 2, that can't really happen. People have to go through information. And so Facebook can see that whenever an inquiry is made, it assumes that it's going to be a qualified inquiry. And more times than not, it actually is, because there's a lot more friction. That's what we call it, right? Meaning that there's a lot more roadblocks on the way before somebody can actually make a submission. And so we know that every single time that somebody makes an inquiry, not every single time, but 9 times out of 10, realistically, it is going to be somebody that is qualified. And so because we know that Meta actually uses all this information to make better decisions about its targeting and about its algorithm, then we know that all the information that we're feeding back to Facebook or back to Meta with a landing page and a better post-click experience is all going to be accurate. Whereas here, your ads are not really going to scale over time. Meaning they're not going to improve, because yes, you're getting a lot of leads, but they're not qualified for your business. And so you keep attracting more leads that are not qualified for your business. And so if anything, you can find yourself in a place where you're going backwards. Because if every 4 leads, only one of them is qualified, eventually over time, Facebook is going to target more and more and more unqualified leads for you. Whereas this way, Facebook's algorithm is consistently going to improve over time. And you're going to get better and better and better leads. And so it's about also understanding that when it comes to Facebook and advertising on Facebook, it is very much about your algorithm and how well you can train that algorithm with data to perform better. And it is a long-term investment. It does take a little bit of time before you can train your algorithm. However, when you do, then things become much, much easier. And so one more thing that I will say, and this is more so for anybody who has tried advertising with instant forms, and potentially even tried with a website or a landing page, the biggest difference that you'll notice, especially if you're not spending a lot of money, is that whenever you advertise with an instant form, you're getting a lot of leads. Whereas with the landing page, you start slowing down a little bit. The leads start becoming a little bit more expensive, which is why it doesn't actually feel great to advertise with the landing page all of the time. However, don't fall into the trap. I've been there. I know how good it feels to run an instant form campaign where you're getting $5 to $7 per lead. It's super cheap. And you feel like you're on top of the world and you're getting all of these leads. You know that most of those leads are not qualified. And even if they could work with you, they're probably somebody who's not very serious and doesn't have a lot of budget, or is even hard to reach, or doesn't even pick up in the first place. And that is because your instant forms and your post-click experience is attracting people who are less qualified. Even myself. I mean, I understand that obviously I know ads a lot better, and so these things really stand out to me. But when I see an ad with an instant form on the back of it, I don't even bother, because I know that the person hasn't actually gone through and made a post-click experience that is worth looking through, where there's real value that I can learn from and understand. And so don't make this mistake right here. Your post-click experience not only is going to bring you more qualified leads from the get-go, but it's also going to help you scale your ads over time. The landing page you have in the back end impacts the performance of your advertising. And so make sure that you actually are taking care of that, and that it is consistent with your advertising. Your messaging is consistent all the way through. Okay? And so I truly believe that these are probably 2 of the biggest reasons why your ads haven't worked, or are not working. And I say this, and I know it's maybe not the sort of answer that you were looking for. Maybe you're looking for more specific settings or more specific changes and like gimmicky stuff, but it's really not about that. It's about the fundamentals. These are some of the fundamentals that you have to understand if you want to compete. Once you understand these, you then have a fighting chance where you can keep on refining your advertising and your landing page to make sure you can get better results. But if you're not doing these things, then you're going to have a really, really hard time advertising for your business. And take it from somebody who has made the same mistakes probably more times than you can even imagine, and has even talked to a lot of clients, right? We have clients that have tried it and they've had the same sort of results. So I get it. I understand. These are the biggest issues. For the rest, if you understand these, for the rest, you're going to be absolutely fine. Over time, your ads are going to perform better and they are going to get better. Just make sure that you're investing into the right things. You're always addressing your market. And even as a post-click experience, meaning that after somebody sees your ad, they're also receiving a lot of value and information that they can go through, and that can actually help them make a decision about your business and qualify themselves to know whether or not they're a good fit to work with you. And that's it.